So to review the first four parts of this Emma series, part one was talking about Emma's first big mistake, and that was dealing with that middle-aged man and her internalization kind of causing trouble when Liberty was approached by Armstrong, and also Manny being a cheerleader. Season two, I talked about how Emma blew up four times. She blew up over the fact that Snake was dating her mom. She blew up over the fact that Spike wanted to abort the baby. She she kind of blew up. She kind of silently blew up when um, Manny stole Craig from her in a sense. And number four, she blew up at Raditch, which was actually warranted in a sense. And then in episode three, I talked about how her father issues happened and that she only knew her father from the hospital, but it was a mental hospital, not a real hospital. And that Emma was trying to get a proper father figure, but learned that her father had violent tendencies and grew to appreciate Snake, who actually told Emma about the whole Shane story, even though Spike didn't want to. And then last week I talked about how one little bit of jealousy and the fact that she didn't want Chris being with Liberty because what was it that say about her, as in Emma, turned into her losing Manny and Liberty as friends, going to Paige's friend group to try to get friends, joining in on the assault on Rick Murray, but then realizing that it's not helping her cause things, and stopping it and basically being the scorn of the school. And then that's when Rick easily got into Emma and almost killed her. So now comes this thing, Emma's through Zombie Emma thing in season five, and you're thinking, well, things just can't get worse for Emma. Oh boy, howdy. This is the worst thing Emma possibly could ever do in the show. And let's talk about it. All in all, it's just bricks in Emma's wall. Face it, Emma, you're much hated. We know that things kinda make you jaded. That's okay though, everyone goes through them. But you have to let people in your wall. Putting up a wall is not what you really have to do. People will help you and make you overrated. It's just the bricks in Emma's wall. So season five opens up with the episode Venus, and that Manny and Emma are poolside when Emma notices a boy named Peter and says to Manny that Peter's the first boy she's actually liked since Hurricane Sean blew her emotional trailer park. It raises the question: is that she wasn't with Sean that much; that she was with Chris after Sean, but there's a damn good reason why. And this plays to the whole Zombie Emma thing. Because let's face it, Sean saved Emma from Rick, and Rick could have killed her. Emma had feelings for Sean and all that. You could see it in Back in Black, and she was upset when Sean had to leave. Sean stayed in Wasaga for PTSD purposes. She was upset. She didn't go out. She didn't have a crush on a boy, although Chester tried crushing on her, but it didn't work out. And Jay did too, but basically Jay was a serial girlfriend cheater and basically gave two girls gonorrhea. Well, three. I think Emma did catch it. The fact of the matter was that, Emma was upset that Sean blew their emotional trailer park. And I understand that because, she wanted to be with Sean in the midst of Sean saving her life. If Toby did that, then she would have been with Toby. It would have been a weird storyline, but at least Toby gets some credence. So the fact of the matter is that she finally gets to be with the guy, and then with Peter, and then she makes the famous introduction when he's actually a student at Degrassi, Says, "Hi, Peter. I'm Degrassi. Welcome to Emma." She was tongue tied. She had the feelings for Peter, but Peter saw through Emma and wanted to be with Manny. Peter then gets Manny into deep trouble by having the video in which Manny exposes herself, saying, "I'm going to be famous," and all that. Of course, he's manipulating Manny and all that, which is terrible and all that. The fact of the matter is that, he actually bribes Manny, saying that, you know, I need $3,000 for a new camera and all that. Give that money to me, and I won't let this video slip out. And Manny is shocked. So Manny tries to get the money that she invested with her dad's credit card into boob implants to get herself some new acting career. But unfortunately, though, you know, she paused on it, and the money goes back on the credit card. Okay, fine. But Manny says, I need it in cash. Unfortunately, though, she can't get the money, and then she actually figures that all Peter wanted to do was go out with Manny and all that. Manny was trying to tell Peter to go towards Emma. So, unfortunately for Manny, that doesn't work out, and Peter exposes the picture, the video, and all that, and everyone says, "My Manny Santos, how have you grown?" As Jimmy said. Emma is mad with Manny, but not for what you think. Emma's mad because she realized where Manny had the video, and that was in Peter's apartment, Peter's room, and it's not saying, "You're trying to steal my man." Manny's like, "Emma, it's not like that." "Oh, I know. You just can't let me be happy and all that." I mean, I understand because Emma still has the trauma of Rick almost killing her, and that she needs a boy. Well, that adds into credence and all that. I won't get too much into it with Manny because I'm kind of saving that dialogue for my ninth video about Emma and Manny's friendship. But Cliff's notes is that Manny then gets kicked out of her house by her father, who was upset with her choosing acting over everything. And like, Manny's dad had a point because he's like, he works so hard, he doesn't want Manny to be some slut or some actress. I understand. I get it with Joseph. But unfortunately, though, it doesn't work out. Manny then decides to live with Emma because Emma felt bad for Manny being kicked out of her place, kicked off Spirit Squad, and basically, Peter was the bad guy. So Emma finally realizes her mistake and decides to allow Manny to move in with her and all that. And of course, they're both stunned when Peter is revealed to be Hatzalakos' son. But what does Peter get for his crime? 5 weeks of detention. Like, you can't do that. Hatzalakos, where is this zero tolerance policy that you put in season 4 to expel Spinner and Jay? You didn't follow through on it. Yes, you threatened Spinner with trouble if he acted out in the start of season 5 as well, because he was coming back from his expulsion. Fair enough. But yeah, she gives him 5 weeks of detention. That's it? No suspension? No expulsion? Motherly love, am I right? Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. The fact of the matter is that, Peter kind of got off scot free. But, Emma has her own problems. But then she realizes things. She still has the cravings for Peter for some strange reason. So Emma decided to, well, Peter sets Emma up on a date with Derek just to see how things work. And then, Emma feels like she needs to get revenge for Manny's sake on Peter. And that's what she does. She's going to videotape him, and then, take pictures and then expose him, and then, be revenge porn or revenge stuff. But Emma looks at the pictures and something clicks in her that she really likes Peter and all that. The fact of the matter is that, Emma wanted so badly to be with Peter that she, did this stuff. It was kind of crushing and all that. I think she purposely decided to tell Manny she's going to get back at Peter for Manny, and then secretly just see him and fawn over him, you can tell that, she's not using her sense. Emma is not who she used to be. I know damn well that the Emma from seasons 1 to 3, as annoying as she is to the fan base, that Emma would never go anywhere near Peter in the first 3 seasons. Never. She was like that. She had her glow up in season 4 and lost her priorities. The fact of the matter is that Peter took advantage of Emma, and Peter did tell Emma about how bad Manny was, and Emma repeated it like a parrot. Like Peter and Emma were supposed to be a couple, so they decided to date each other in secret as long as Manny and other people don't know. But unfortunately, when they kiss in secret during the Jay and Silent Bob movie, so too were their parents. Well, Peter's mom and Emma's stepdad, as Hatzalakos and Simpson were trading kisses. Simpson was going through a midlife crisis, which Spike didn't understand, and Hatzalakos kind of went through a crisis because she lost her husband, who basically flirted with the office's secretary and left Hatzalakos high and dry. I understand. Hatzalakos is dealing with a bad situation, and the whole school thing, coming in for a school that's fractured, and who the previous principal did dick all about their students and all that. Radich failed Rick. We all know that. But Radich failed the students by not doing anything about Rick in the first place. That's why the students decided to do mob justice, in effect, and telling Radich that if you don't do anything about it, we'll do something about it. And I think Radich got bit. Yeah, Hatzalakos came through with that situation. But of course, it pisses me off that Hatzalakos, she puts the zero tolerance thing on Spinner, and yet she doesn't do it for Peter. I think she just did it to please the school board. I think the school board forced her to do zero tolerance, and she was actually hesitant. Nevertheless, the whole Snake Hatzalakos thing is there. Emma gets blamed for telling Spike everything, but Emma had to. Emma felt like she had to. And Spike got upset, more so that Snake forced Emma to keep it quiet. I think if Emma was not forced to keep quiet, I think that Spike might have been a little understanding. Spike and Snake break off. Snake stays at Joey's. Emma is forced to pick up her lion's share of chores and all that. Where's Manny? Why is Manny not doing anything about it? And then the whole thing with the eating disorder and all that. As I said, I won't get too much into it because that's going to be for week 9, and we're in week 5. There'll be a different video. But anyhow, Manny wants to lose weight for Rural. Emma decides to help her out, and then they go through a dieting thing. But Emma falls in love with this thing and feels more control over her body. Obviously, the whole Rick situation made her lose control, and she told Snake and Spike, I just wanted you to feel perfect. You don't have to be perfect for anybody. They basically tell her that, you don't have to be such a dickwad. I guess you can kind of say that. But nevertheless, Emma then does that whole dining thing, and Peter notices too when Emma is dumping food out. Of course, Manny wants to out Emma's eating disorder to Spike, and then Emma blurts out, finally, I'm dating Peter. Is that what you want? Because of the whole diary thing. I'm dating Peter. I want to date Peter. And Manny's disgusted. And she has a right to be disgusted. And then, Peter tells Manny something's wrong with Emma. And then they have that intervention, which Emma blows steam, saying everyone thinks they're perfect. You take advantage of drunk chicks, or drunk girls, to Peter. You are that drunk girl to Manny. And then to Snake. And the last time I checked, you made out with his mother. I'm surprised she didn't blast Spike. I think she would have. And then she angrily decides to kick Manny out of her house, but then has a panic attack, is in the hospital, and finally realizes the error of her ways. I know I'm kind of cheating too because, it's 1 season per week, but technically, no. I am going to do this whole Peter thing. If I'm going to do the whole if it's Peter shtick from season 5, I might as well do for season 6 as well. So season 6, it looks like Pema, as in Peter and Emma, are the it couple, if you will. And Manny's okay with it. Everyone's okay with it. Until Sean, out of freaking nowhere, there was no signs he was coming back, decides to come back. And all of a sudden, Emma now is wooed towards Sean. Peter thinks that this was great. He can make friends with Sean and they attack about Emma and then everything would be fine. Unfortunately, Manny decides to tell Peter the whole story with Sean and Emma dating a couple times. And Peter freaks out. Can I blame the guy? No, you can't blame the guy. Now, of course, with me, it's like, did Manny purposely tell Peter about Sean to break off Pamela? Because let's face it, Peter and Emma were a terrible couple. And let's face facts. There could have been a lot of internet message boards saying Peter and Emma should never be together. I agree full heartedly. Peter was a manipulative piece of shit, and Emma was totally not the same Emma as she used to be. If Emma was the Emma she was from seasons 1 to 3, as annoying as she was, she would never have been with Peter. Nevertheless, Emma and Peter were a couple, and then Peter freaks out and wants to know from Emma if she has feelings for Sean. Emma doesn't give a straight answer. Peter realizes it and decides to frame Sean for drugs and get Sean expelled. Emma, of course, naturally doesn't believe Sean's story and is relieved to get rid of Sean, kind of, and stay with Peter. Unfortunately, though, Peter and Sean decide to have a street race. Sean hits a pedestrian. Peter stops by, but Jay convinces Sean to leave the scene of the accident because they'll go easy on Peter, but not Sean, because Peter's a minor. So that's what happens. Sean tries to crash at Emma's house. Emma tells Sean he has to confess, and Sean goes to jail. I mean, people were upset about that. But the fact is that Emma could have gotten herself into trouble herself. If she was harboring a fugitive, that's against the law. That is just as bad. So the fact of the matter is that, Peter and Emma are together. Peter gets probation and all that. Emma still sees Peter and all that, and has no sympathy towards Sean. But Manny and Jay team up to tell Emma all these things. I'm actually shocked that nobody, Sean or Emma, called Jay out on his hypocrisy, because Jay was the one who told Sean to leave the scene of the accident. How come Jay didn't get in trouble for that? Then we'd probably see the last of the asshole. Sorry, that's just me. But the fact of the matter for Peter and Emma is that Emma was willing to allow Peter to come to the prom, to the dance, but Peter can't. He's under house arrest, and rightfully so. Emma says, "Why don't we do a masquerade, like with masks and all that? Then we can get together." That definitely is not Emma. The Emma we all know from the first few seasons would never have gone this way. But unfortunately, Emma's glow up ruined her definitely. Season 4 ruined her and cost her to try to go towards Paige's friends and lost Manny and Liberty as friends. And I don't blame them for breaking up from Emma. But the fact of the matter is that, Emma has feelings for Sean and all that. But Emma tells Manny that she needs to be with Peter because he held her hand while she was in the hospital for the eating disorder, which is actually false because it was Manny who was holding her hand, and Sean and Peter was talking to Simpson. But Emma probably felt. But what if Peter did hold Emma's hand and we didn't see it? It was off screen. I think it was off screen that she's talking about it. Unfortunately, though, she gets pissed off at Peter after realizing that Peter put the mask in her locker and is like, "I never gave him my combination." Now the pieces fall together, and she gets Peter to admit that he did it for the relationship. I don't blame Peter for getting scared that Emma was going to leave him, but Emma then basically blasts Peter, saying, "Don't you ever come near me again." I know people are upset, mostly because, what? When Peter did this bad stuff to Manny, that Emma didn't really care much. She did let Manny come live with her. But the fact of the matter is, when it inconveniences Emma, then she starts to go bananas. I think that people were right. That because it inconvenienced Emma, she cared about it. But if it didn't inconvenience her, she doesn't care. Peter got what he was coming. I think the writers decided to get rid of Pella because of the internet hate. I know it's 2005 when this is happening, But the fact of the matter is, it's stupid. Peter and Emma should never have dated. Peter was a manipulative piece of crap, and Emma was totally manipulated. You could tell that her zombie Emma phase, that her clingy girlfriend phase was there. She was clingy. She wanted to cling on to Sean after he saved her from Rick's gun and failed. She couldn't find somebody. And then all of a sudden, she's got somebody who actually has affection for her. Peter said the right things to get Emma to lose her head because Emma felt like she was wanted by somebody and that nobody wanted to go near her. She got somebody who really cared about her. Peter wooed her and she liked to be wooed. Now, of course, the whole thing with Emma and Sean and everything else. I won't get into that in this episode, but next week we'll get into season 6, and Emma and Manny's relationship takes a massive hit. And it all happens because a fellow classmate just had to die because of a stupid rivalry with Lakehurst. You obviously know who it is. I'll talk about Emma's whole aftermath of the whole stabbing thing and how it would relate to her relationship with Sean. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. Adieu.